Hello there. Just bear with me one moment. I've got someone who wants to talk about this film with me. Wait one moment. You're probably wondering why I've got Bruce Lee with me. Because I'm going to talk about Bruce Lee film. So I think it's just date to have the man with me. That being Way of the Dragon. Now, a couple of months ago, I remember doing one of the Bruce Lee films. One of the best he ever did. Classic. One of sad to say was the last. That being Enter the Dragon. I thought I was going to do Bruce Lee one day around the road. So why not? Why not? That being Way of the Dragon. Again, Way of the Dragon's a good one, but you can tell it's one of his early ones from the days of Golden Harvest. Which, to be honest, this is me being honest, I grew up watching Golden Harvest. I watched all the Jackie Chans, I watched all the other martial art films, I watched a lot. And it's only in my later days when I started to watch Bruce Lee. I know, same on me. But that's the only time I started to watch Bruce Lee. And I like Bruce Lee. You know what I mean? He's a damn good fighter, damn good martial artist. You can never see why they called him the legend. And, you know, may he rest in peace. But with the Dragon, there's only one thing I will say. Only one thing. The dubbing of Bruce Lee wasn't the best. It wasn't the best, nor was the dubbing. The dubbing weren't the best, but with martial art films, in all fairness, if you're going for amazing dubbing, amazing acting, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're going into martial arts for fighting and kicking ass and kung fu, that is what you're going to get. And it's like that, you know. There's all this fucking nothing to come someone home about. You've got a syndicate, right? And basically they want this restaurant and they want to take over this girl's restaurant. So she asks his mate, one of the relatives, that being Lee, that's Bruce Lee. She asks this Bruce Lee to help her. And that's when he comes in to Rome. Now, there's a good bit of history of this film. Not only does it have Bruce Lee as the star, and that's there, but he also directed the film. That's right, even though it's done by Golden Harvest, the company that is. Bruce Lee not only has the star and starred in the film, but Bruce Lee also directed the film. That's right, he directed Way of the Dragon back in the early 70s. And you could also say also made another star of the film, that being Chuck Norris. That's right, Chuck Norris appears, as we all know, as the villain. Now again, they also dubbed Chuck Norris's voice. Why didn't he use his own voice? I don't know. Now there was a version of this where he did actually have the actors, who was, you know, American actors, where their voices wasn't dubbed, but the Chinese actors, including Bruce, theirs were in their own language. So I thought that was pretty funny. But the version I've got is the one where it's all dubbed. And it's funny because one of the main villains in it was, his voice, believe it or not, was dubbed by a kid. I shit you not, his voice was dubbed by a kid actor. You do get a good scene, as we all remember, the iconic scene though, where he fights Chuck Norris and he's in Rome. He's in actually Rome, fighting this amazing fight scene in Rome. A lot of people remember the scene in Way of the Dragon. You know, he's doing a date scene, he's doing a fight scene, and he's in Rome. Brilliant scene, iconic with Chuck Norris. Which, as we all know that Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, as you know, Bruce Lee used to be Chuck Norris's cheat, so he teaches Chuck Norris. You know, Chuck Norris went to school where Bruce Lee was doing martial arts, and you know, he was teaching martial arts. So this was the film I think, if anything, made Chuck Norris as well. I mean, Bruce was already a star at that era. Bruce Lee, as you know, had no option but to kill Chuck Norris, the character that is. But I love to see him when he's fighting with Chuck Norris and he gets him, and Chuck Norris, you think he's going to get the better of Bruce, he just rips a chunk of his hair off his chest, and then does that and pulls it. I love it, it's just iconic, you know what I mean? It's one of them films now where I watch Way of the Dragon and I've got to fucking admit, I miss Bruce Lee. I miss him. He's a damn good martial artist. I say he directed the film, and my advice to everyone is, if you ever got it on video back in the day, get rid of it. Get rid of it on video. Because I remember having it on video, and I'm not shitting you, it was cut to fucking shit. It was cut to pieces. Bit amount, some of the violence was cut down. Don't know why the hell it was rated 18. And the best scene ever in the film, which they did a lot in them days, is the scene which I saw you there on these hands, the nunchucker. There's a scene where Bruce Lee gets some nunchuckers and he's whacking and he's twatting and he's whacking after people, you know, doing his famous cry noise, wah wah, and all the noises what Bruce Lee did in the mirrors. And that scene was heavily cut on video, heavily cut, because about the fight scenes is cut from the film. So, and plus the video was never the best quality, it was in its original faded quality. Technically you get the original Jordan Arthur's logo, so it definitely brings old memories back in that era. But to me, get the DVD. Get the DVD, it's digitally remastered, it's in its original widescreen format, and you get a shitload of features, and it's in its uncut form. With the scene I just mentioned, the nunchucker scene, which I love. I fucking love the scene. I just think that scene in Way of the Dragon is brilliant. I mean, and like I say, I love the fact it brought Chuck Norris to the table. But this is how I see it. I think myself, right, this is just me being honest, I think Chuck Norris just did it for this. Because at the time, you know, he was studying martial arts. I'm not studying Chuck, because he's a damn, we all know now over the years, he's a tough guy in martial arts. When I see Chuck Norris in any film, whether it's Missing in Action, Enforcer USA, that's the two things up, even his earlier films, in a fight scene, I had to see Bruce Lee, because you taught him. You went to school with Bruce in the days when Bruce Lee was teaching martial arts. And this, so Chuck Norris basically just did this, thought this will be easy money, I get to star with my teacher and my best mate, we do a epic fight scene, did therefore, brilliant, easy money. It's only when people saw it, they like Chuck Norris, it launched him. And the iconic scene in Rome where he does this, Bruce Lee's looking up and he does that. I just love it, I love it. Like I say, some of the villains are thingy, you got one villain and he's got like hint he's gay. They don't exactly put out he's gay, but the hint is, you know, he's gay. And you got one guy, you think he's a good guy, he's working in the restaurant, and there's a bit which is very iconic where it goes Gene every time he's talking, which means he's not trustworthy. And then we'll see Gene in the film a lot on this main guy. What it's saying is he's not trustworthy, there's something about him. And you do find out there isn't something about him. You know, he has a knife and he actually kills some of the lads who work for him. I think it was like relatives and all, and he stabs them. He literally stabbed them, and then the uncut one, it's a lot more graphic. He stabs one and he's going, and he's laughing. Definitely shows that he's an arsehole. I just wish there was a scene here where Bruce Lee said a bit like, you're working for them? Doesn't happen, but I just made that up. But I just wish there was a bit more of that in it. But it's interesting to see Bruce Lee direct the film as well as star. It's kind of the same really. 1 year after this, you know, he sadly died. I'd love to see what happened if he directed other films as well as starring them. But Way of the Dragon back in 72 to 1973, it's a good one. You know, it was a good one. 1 year roughly at this time he was doing Enter the Dragon, and as we know, before he did that he was doing bits of Dame of Death, which we all know, sadly to say, he never completed Dame of Death because his own death happened. You know, Bruce Lee, as we all know, sadly died, and Dame of Death was basically the only film he never completed. It was only like in the late 70s decided to do Dame of Death and just use about 5, 6, 7 fucking lookalikes. So I don't really task Dame of Death, to be honest, as being a Bruce Lee film. The film what we got in the late 70s, I mean. But The Way of the Dragon is a good one, you know, it's well directed. The ending's a bit thingy, he walks off and he pays his respect on the ones who died, and then he just walks off, and this guy says, with all guns and all knives, Lee will be there. I think his name was Lee in the film, I could be right or wrong, but Way of the Dragon, started in 1973, it's a good one, check it out. See Bruce kicking ass, and you also see Chuck Norris make his first big break on the big screen. Into them. See you later.